Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Do you have a barber?
Yeah, that's next step. I got already
Next
shaved
step.
yesterday. That's next step. Now I get the haircut. Yeah, it's unbelievable. They must have a shortage of scissors or something because I got to wait all the way until the end of the week. But yeah, usually when it doesn't fully comb, as is the case right now, that's when it's a clear indication.
I mean, seriously, on behalf of the audience, you're a mess.
Yeah, I know. At the front especially, it keeps sticking out. There we go. No, didn't work.
Why don't you just hold your hand over it?
Yeah, you get the alfalfa look.
No. I just, if you could do that the entire show.
There you go.
Right? I can make fun of it the entire show. No,
There
I'm
you
just
go.
kidding. All right. So, a couple notes. We mentioned Pro Football Writers Association naming Joey Porter Jr., Jair Brown on the all-rookie team. Porter with the Steelers, Jair with the San Francisco 49ers. Helping that mediocre group get way better.
He's been clutch. He sure has.
And Micah Parsons was able to make the first-team All-Pro group. Terry Killens, the former Nittany Lion outside linebacker rush end, decided after his pro career was over with to get into officiating. He has worked his way through the ranks for a long time. He officiated in the American Conference and so forth. Well, then he made the NFL as an umpire. And when they announced yesterday that, to no one's surprise, that Bill Vinovich, who's really one of the gold standard guys in the NFL as an official, and again, the referee crew always comes out of the divisional weekend. Yep. Vinovich was named to his third Super Bowl as the lead referee. Terry Killens was named as the umpire. He is the first player ever to officiate a Super Bowl that's played in the Super Bowl and officiated in it.
All right.
How about that?
Yeah.
So, Terry, congratulations. One of the absolutely great guys out there. Okay, you want to know why realignment has been happening in college sports, and it's all about TV networks, TV thoughts, so forth. Well, Tony Altimore, TJ Altimore, was able to put together this. And this tells the entire story. The 2016 to 2023 total Nielsen-rated viewers for college football. 50% of the college football viewership from 16 to 23 comes from 18 teams. That's it. So 18 teams make up 50%. So only 13% of the schools make up 50% of the viewers. Meanwhile, only 10% of the total viewers come from the bottom 71 schools, which is 53%.
Yep.
Yes. So who are the coveted 18? Well, let's eliminate the mystery off the top. Penn State is one of them. You pretty much assumed. So there are 7 members of the Big Ten, 8 from the SEC, 2 from the ACC, and 1 independent. Congratulations to UMass. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, the independent Navy.
Just kidding. So here we go. From the ACC, Alabama, Georgia. So far, real surprises. I'm now grouping in what the membership's going to be. Football season's over. Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, LSU, Texas, Auburn, Florida, and Tennessee. The 2 ACC schools are Clemson and Florida State. The independent, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. And the Big Ten schools, the 7 Big Ten schools, are Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, Washington, Southern Cal, and Oregon. You wonder why they invited those three in?
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why. They bring television cachet. So if you're wondering why Oklahoma and Texas are in the SEC, they're among the coveted 18. If you're wondering why Washington, Oregon, and USC are in the Big Ten, they're part of the coveted 18. So you would have had 6 SEC schools, 2 Big 12s, 3 Pac 12s, and 4 Big 10 schools. Well, 4 became 7 with that move. That tells you everything about brands. And I've talked about the brand part over and over again. Penn State is a brand.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, people want to watch. I go back to the NCAA tournament last March. Penn State played Texas. Now, is Texas a huge basketball brand? No, but they're good. Is Penn State a huge basketball brand? No. Right? But they're, they're in the Big Ten. But you combine the brand of the NCAA March Madness. The front of the jersey says Penn State. The front of the jersey says Texas. And it combined for 6.6 million viewers. What did you put in this coffee?
I couldn't.
I just heard it pop.
I'm in the minority. I do not drink coffee, so.
What are you talking about? You walked in here the other day with this Irish blend. What the heck was that? I never had heard of it. All right, it's like, right? Looked at me. He says, "Look, I mean, imagine what you can do with Bailey's." I'm like, "What does that mean?" I mean, it's early in the morning. When's the last time you did a show sober? I'm just asking for a friend.
Well,
Oh,
it's this last time Harry Carey did a broadcast sober. Probably about there.
Right.
About that time.
If the moon were made out of Swiss cheese, would you eat it? It's like, oh, jeez, what are you doing? Will Ferrell was so funny with that.
He was. He was.
But this is where it is, okay? Yeah. You've got everybody else along for the ride. No offense, I mean, to the Purdues, the Indianas, the Marylands, the Rutgers.
Rutgers.
You know, I mean,
Nebraska.
You notice who's not in there. Nebraska's not
surprising.
in there.
Yeah, I knew it was a 7. Wisconsin and Nebraska was going to be one or the other, and I actually probably would have said Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not there. I'm sure they're close.
Yeah.
But they're not
strong
there.
Fan base.
But 50% of the TV viewership, not just from last season, this goes from 2016 to 2023. This is a huge sample size of 8 seasons. So over 8 seasons, 50% of the viewership involved these 18 schools. And only 10% of the schools, okay, only 10% of the total viewers, only 10% were watching games of 71 schools, 53%. So it's 53-13, so it's what, 66%. So that middle ground area is 34%, a third. Between 18 and 71 and 60, whatever it is. So it's 34 schools.
Yeah.
That'd be 18 and be up to 42, right? No, 52.
52, yeah.
Yeah, 52. Okay? So 19 to 52 makes up the rest of it. But this tells you everything. I mean, Alabama's assumed, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, those are all assumed. Notre Dame, I think, is assumed. Texas was assumed. Auburn, I didn't assume, but remember, Auburn's had the bounce of playing Alabama each year, and the 2 Penn State games were huge audiences.
Yep.
Right? It was a non-conference game. And then Tennessee may have been floundering for a long period of time, but they played big games. They played Georgia. They play Alabama.
Especially last year. Yep.
All right.
Or 2 years ago.
But they play Georgia. They play Alabama.
Every year.
They're in the same division as Georgia. They play them every year. And the third Saturday in October, they play Alabama every year. So they're going to get the bump from 2 big games to begin with because of the opponent that they're playing. LSU's had some primetime games. Texas and Oklahoma get bumps by playing each other. And, we know Penn State gets a huge audience for Ohio State, huge audience for Michigan. But this is why you add in Washington, USC, and Oregon. I said for a while, I said, look, they're good brands. I mean, I said, or I was talking about Oregon and Washington. I said, they're good brands, really good brands. Right? This, though, takes me to another level that they're great brands. And because remember, in 16, Washington made the playoff. In 23, they made the playoff. No other Pac-12 team made the playoff between 17 and 22. And some of those years with Washington with Steve Lake were not good years. But people want to watch him play. And this is why when they put together TV contracts, why does the SEC have the deal they have with ESPN? And why does the Big Ten have its deal with Fox, NBC, and CBS? Because of the 18 top brands, the SEC now has 8 of them, and the Big Ten now has 7 of them. That's 15 out of the 18 in 2 conferences. And it's this. I always find this interesting because, it just. What struck me, it was Rutgers football. Now, Rutgers football, and again, this is I'm just doing a graphic example here. This is not a year ago, Rutgers played Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State because they're all in the same division. Now, each time they played one of the mega brands, they got a big number of people watching, right?
I would think so, yeah.
They averaged 650,000 viewers a game. So that means that the other games they were in,
nobody watched.
Yeah.
That's a big reason why these schools are going to be getting, and look, USC could be involved in these games, but that's a big reason why the Rutgers of the world, the Purdues of the world are going to be getting those Thursday night games or those Saturday night at 10 p.m. games because you don't necessarily run the risk, but you know your audience. You basically say, hey, there'll be a game on. People want to watch it. They can watch it. But and that's a big reason why you don't put your big brands in those spots unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah, but, let's take the Peacock thing this year.
Yep.
Ohio State had 1.
Penn State had 1.
Ohio State had Michigan State? No, that was an NBC game. That was night.
I want to say as Purdue was the Peacock game.
It was because I had to pick up a way to watch it because it was right before they played Penn State. Michigan played East Carolina, somebody like that, and Penn State played Delaware.
Yep.
And they were able to get on Peacock doing that. But that's why they put this stuff together.
Sure.
And it's that kind of. We already knew Penn State was a top brand, and Penn State has ranked anywhere from 4th to 9th in recent years, depending on the year and the opponents and so forth. Especially a lot of it has to do with like that one marquee non-conference opponent. When they played Auburn, they got huge numbers. Well, this year they didn't have that. West Virginia in the opening game, that drew well. They got 3.5 million. They got 3.5 million.
First Saturday night game,
Yep. But, that does play a role. But let's face it, certain schools draw. And we're fortunate that one of them happens to be in the backyard here. The key, now, of course, we can talk about on-field performance and so forth and how many games you win, and it's important. But the brand loyalty is impressive, and it's across the board. I mean, Florida's had up and down. They still got people watching them. Tennessee up and down. Still got people watching them. Florida State, until they finally caught a little bit of fire,
inconsistent. Yep,
they've been very inconsistent. Clemson's slid back a couple spots.
They've taken a step back, absolutely.
Right,
yeah.
but they're still right there in there. Okay, so that's why when they put together realignment and why they're going for super conferences, that's what they're trying to do. And the ones that are fortunate along the way, and again, this is with all due respect, this is not putting anybody down, just not. But look, if you're at Indiana, Purdue, Northwestern, Illinois, Maryland, Rutgers, Michigan State even, right? Minnesota, Nebraska, right? UCLA in this case, you're fortunate you are where you are. I mean, you were given the financial golden ticket as opposed to somebody else that doesn't have it. If you're Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky, right? South Carolina, Missouri. I mean, notice who's also not in. Texas A&M's not in there.
Yeah.
How about that one? Texas A&M is not in there. Yeah. And it's not like they don't play big games.
No, yeah,
they
consistently.
Do. But those schools, again, Vanderbilt, golden ticket. South Carolina, golden ticket. Right? Missouri to a point. I mean, Missouri's had some good years, but Missouri to a point, golden ticket. Mississippi State. I mean, golden tickets. Because they ended up long term with the right group.
Right.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
You put out that fake report about Deebo Samuel's shoulder. You can freely admit it.
The 50-50 one or the
Both.
The no fracture?
Both. I mean, you're the one putting it out. We all know.
You bet.
Yeah. I mean, you're not a doctor.
No.
You try to play one on the radio.
That's right. It's tough to do. But, if they could have a TV show where a kid gets a 1600 on an SAT and have an MD, I could try.
Oh, you're scary. Okay.
Anybody listening that's under 30 is looking at me saying, what's he talking about?
I know. Okay, Baseball Hall of Fame results.
Yeah.
Adrian Beltre got 95% of the votes. Everybody knew he was getting in.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting. I talked to Tim Kirchin last week up in Williamsport, and I talked to Bob Nightingale yesterday. And Doc Rivers finalizing deal to be the Bucks coach.
I did see that, yeah.
They're 30-13. They bagged the guy.
I think a lot of it was Giannis not getting along with him. I think it's becomes a point now where you've got to appease your superstars.
And why am I working with you?
Exactly.
I mean, you have tried to bag me for years. I mean, we all know you're the star of the show. Right? You're just bringing me along just out of pity?
That's right.
All right. It's the pity thing with you?
But it was interesting to see, and it's his first year with the team too. I think that's the other part of it.
Yeah.
And that's the his first year.
Right. Back to the Hall of Fame. Beltre got 95%. Besides in spite of the lost Seattle years.
Yeah, playing in that field,
but just like he got a lot of money. It's like he didn't do anything. And you know what resurrected his career? He played 1 year with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
So I went to a game the 1 year he played there. And Daisuke Matsuzaka pitched. What does that tell you? So everybody in the stands found religion. And Red Sox are losing 3-0. Beltre comes up, launches one over the monster, grand slam, and they win the game 4-3. And Daisuke's the winning pitcher, just to let you know, like all the stars aligned. The guy made a couple great plays on the field. Like, this guy's good. Todd Helton was next. He got 79% of the vote. Actually, almost 80, 79.7. Bob Nightingale's point to me about Todd Helton was this: the number of home runs he hit, despite the fact he played at Coors Field. He said he should have hit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Joe Mauer. You know, it's interesting. Like, he's going in as a catcher, but he played half his career as a first baseman and as a DH.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised him getting in first ballot.
76%. Helton, by the way, was on the ballot for the 6th year. Beltre and Mauer on the first year. Now the just missed guys. Billy Wagner's on the ballot one more year.
Yeah, you got to get him in. That's
his 4th.
He's a Hall of Famer.
74%, 73.8% need 75.
Needed 5 votes.
So Billy Wagner is actually right-handed. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You want to know why he pitches left-handed?
That I did not know.
You obviously don't know your barber either.
That's right.
It's like, what a mess. I'm not saying I'm the most finely coiffed individual ever, but geez.
It sticks out a little bit. Yeah.
Sticks out a little bit? What are you talking about?
Just a little bit.
Okay. So, Wagner is a kid. I think he's 5 years old.
Yep.
Breaks his right arm. But he loves baseball so much, he then just picks up a ball and just starts throwing left-handed, and that he becomes a left. He does everything else right. It's like Phil Mickelson. Mickelsen's right-handed, you know. Mickelson is not left-handed; he's right-handed, and that's how he became a left-handed thrower. Because when he was recuperating from breaking his arm, that left arm got stronger, and stronger. And, of course, he ended up being a guy that threw like 98, 99 all the time. But that's how, even though he's right-handed, that's how he became a left-handed pitcher. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I would put him in the Hall of Fame. I think he's one that should be there.
Gary Sheffield, 64%. Gary Sheffield meets my... I have a standard on guys. Okay, let's take all the numbers aside.
Yep.
Okay,
which most don't do. That's the problem.
Okay. If you're in a game, let's take a big game, and you're a fan of X team, and he's coming to the plate, do you as a fan fear him?
Yep. No question.
Yep. That tells you everything about like this guy. He can launch it out of here. He's a 500 home run guy.
500 home run
and
guy.
Guess what? He is being ostracized because he was involved in the cream with Barry Bonds. But if you take a moment and look at his season that year, it's one of the worst statistical seasons of his career. And was never implicated the rest of the time.
Nope.
I think he's been unfairly judged. Hopefully that will be rectified. Andrew Jones had a great run for a long period of time, offensively and defensively. His problem was the last few years he fell off the map.
Yeah.
61.6%. Carlos Beltran, I think is being... I think he's being unfairly looked at...
Because of the Astros.
Because of the Astros thing.
Yep.
You judge people as a player, but he got 57%.
Yeah, as a player, he's a Hall of Famer. There's not a shadow of a doubt.
Right. Statistically, Alex Rodriguez is, but we all know that, two-time knockout. He got 34.8. Manny Ramirez in the same thing.
Yep.
Right? 32.5. Chase Utley got 28.8. And I found that to be surprising.
I thought so, too. I thought he'd be in the 40s. I really did. I knew he wasn't going to get in first ballot. There's no question about that. But, the only 28.8%. And it's surprising because I think a lot of these voters, obviously, they look at numbers. Sure. That's the first thing they look at. But The other thing that they look at is what did this guy do in the postseason, and Chase Utley in the postseason was clutch.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And which is why it was surprising to see him get that little number.
Now, look, a lot of these guys cover this and they see it with their own eyes on a day in and day out basis.
Sure.
I mean, to me, it's one of the critical parts of being a voter.
Absolutely.
And again, it's only writers. Broadcasters can't vote, anything like that.
Yep.
Omar Vizquel, I think what's being held against him is off the
offense.
field, the domestic violence. 17.7. Bobby Abreu, 14.8. Jimmy Rollins, 14.8.
Surprising Rollins was only in the 14s. I actually thought he'd be where Utley's at, in the 20s or so, late 20 and 28, 20, 30%.
Andy Pettit, 13.5. Mark Burley, 8.3. Francisco Rodriguez, 7.8. Torrey Hunter, 7.3. David Wright, 6.2. Jose Bautista, 1.6. Victor Martinez, VMart, 1.6. Bartolo Colon, 1.3. And Matt Holliday had 1%. That's how it broke down.
Yeah. It tells you how difficult I think the Baseball Hall of Fame is, too. You're naming players there in the low percentages that are had MVP caliber years. And just that.
Yeah, but you know what? To be honest with you, a lot of these guys, like Jimmy Rollins, Rollins to me was really good, not great.
Not great, right. Yeah.
It doesn't mean he didn't have a great season here or there.
To me to be a Hall of Famer, you have to consistently be great for an era where you look down where this guy led the league and here, and here. 6 years straight. Right. That's where I think you start looking at him and saying, yeah, this guy belongs in.
Now, it's a disappointment for Jimmy Rollins.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a disappointment for Philly fans.
Absolutely.
I understand all that. But if I'm sitting there and objectively looking at like a player that should be in the Hall of Fame, to me, he's in that Hall of really good. I'm not putting him there. No. He's in the Hall of really good.
Right.
When Jimmy Rollins came to the plate, did I have the same thought process in my mind as when Gary Sheffield came to the plate? No. In fact, did I have the same thought process when Joe Mauer came to the plate versus Gary Sheffield? No.
No, Mauer was that's why Mauer surprised me. Is he a Hall of Famer? I think so, but I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's a difference for me. I think when you get in is when you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. That's how it is. But first ballot to me tells me that they stuck out above all completely, where you looked and said this game of baseball was much different with this guy being on that field. There wasn't really a time during Joe Mauer's career where I looked and said, this guy's the best player in baseball, or in the top 2 or 3. And that's why I just don't know if I would have put him first ballot. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? Yeah. Consistency in Minnesota, what he did was sensational. But I don't know about being a first ballot for him. I thought that one was surprising.
Well, he's in.
Yeah, he's in. Absolutely. That's all that matters.
That's why I've always laughed. I mean, really laughed when Yankee fans have said to me, it's disgusting Dan Shaughnessy didn't vote for Derek Jeter. He should have been unanimous. I said,
he's in.
And I said, excuse me.
Yeah.
I said, if Dan Shaughnessy didn't vote for him and he ended up at 74.8%, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I said, but all you need is 75%. Who cares after 75% how many of the dudes vote for you? Right? I mean, Adrian Beltre got 95%. Good enough.
I agree.
It's all that matters is good enough. That's why people get prickly about stuff.
Yeah.
He should have been unanimous. Well, excuse me. He's not even the greatest Yankee of all time.
No, she's not even. No. No.
Right? Was Joe DiMaggio unanimous? No. Babe Ruth, no. Lou Gehrig, no. Mickey Mantle,
all of these guys are better than Jeter.
Right? I mean, come
offensively,
on, right?
Not a doubt.
They're better than him defensively.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Mantle was a good defensive player. Joe DiMaggio was a
really
superior defensive player.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Gehrig, first base. Yeah. Actually, yeah.
I mean, none of them made 53 errors in a year. Obviously, I wasn't around
for Gehrig, but yeah.
None of them made 56 errors in a year.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And Jeter's a great player.
No, he was. And there's no question he was.
Easy first ballot.
Yeah, easy first ballot.
I got first guy I check.
Yeah.
But, like, people get so prickly about stuff.
Exactly. Well, and that's...
What is wrong with you?
Absolutely.
He's in.
He's in. Yeah, absolutely. And even in the era of baseball from the 90s to the 2000s, Ken Griffey Jr. was exponentially better than Derek Jeter. Not even close. When Ken Griffey Jr. was healthy, he's the best player of this era that I've seen. Hands down. So if he's not unanimous, then why should Derek Jeter be? And that's where...
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter to me. It's a nice designation.
Of course it is. Mariano Rivera has that to his grave, but that's not...
Okay.
Yeah,
but all that matters is, did you clear 75%?
Yeah.
After that, it's gravy time.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to 75%. Okay? I got a whole list of guys that didn't make it.
Didn't make it that you probably should have made it. A couple should have made it, yeah.
Okay? I hear stuff like that. It's like, what is wrong with you? What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
Dan Shaughnessy didn't vote for him. So what?
So what? Yeah.
Right? He has a vote. I'll never forget talking to somebody one time, and this was a few years ago. Something about a guy being on the all Big Ten team, and he's going on and on and on and on. I said, well, I disagree with that. He said, I think he should be on the all Big Ten team. And the guy looked at me and he said, oh, this is true story. You'll love this. What makes your opinion more important than mine? And I looked at him and I said, well, I have a vote.
There you go.
He goes, what? I said, I have a vote. I said, your opinion, I said, my opinion is not more important than yours. I said, I do have a vote.
True.
Sorry. I mean, you got a little bit of juice there. What the heck? But yeah, that's now the pro football one's next, and that's again that one is difficult because you're not in baseball. Obviously, you're talking about what is currently now 26-man rosters. Used to be 25. And you are times 30 teams and the longevity of it. In football, you're talking 32 teams, 53 guys. That's just a boatload of people to consider here at positions. In other words, Joe Mauer may have caught, but he stood out because the 9 guys are out there and they're separated. And then they're individually at the plate. In football, how do you sit there and judge the right guard? Right? In that mass of humanity. I mean, people will ask me about line play. Right? And I can talk about, in general, the line play, but about a specific guy. I'm talking about in the game, not in a practice. In practice. Excuse me. In practice, I can sit there and I can, concentrate on somebody. Yeah. But when I'm broadcasting the game, I'm following the ball.
Following the ball, absolutely.
Right? I'm following the ball, the yard marker, with the down and the distance, things like that. Unless a guy's pulling out, and you'll hear, you've heard me call plays. That's
exactly where I was going.
You'll hear me call out, gets a block from because it's right there in the open field. Yeah. But if it's just like play, whatever, or pass protection, maybe you can pick up something out of the corner of your eye where somebody did something, but you're following the ball.
Right.
These guys that vote on those guys, that's a hard vote.
That's a hard job. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a hard job. I realize you've got maybe more time in the press box to look at it because you're not calling the game.
And you're watching the replay. Yeah, you have a better look at the replay.
Watching replays, things like that.
Yep.
But even people say, why don't you watch the replays? Because
you're focusing on
I'm watching personnel
coming in and out,
Right? I'm listening to what Jack has to say, and I'm concentrating on personnel in and out because I always feel it's important to tell the audience, okay, they've changed the running back, or hey, they've now taken out a tight end, they brought in an extra wide receiver. That way, people have an idea what could happen. But you've got all these people. You only get 5 guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now there are more guys because there's a veterans committee now, and there's a contributors committee. Just like this 3-man group here, Jim Leland got in. right? But that was weeks ago.
Right.
Which is tremendous that Jim Leyland got in. I'm thrilled about that.
Should have gotten in, absolutely.
I mean, the Marlins won a World Series.
Won the World Series of the Marlins. Should have been in the World Series of the Pirates at least once.
Yeah, I know.
92.
I know.
Couldn't ask him and Doug Drabeck to do any more than they did in Game 7.
No, could not. But I'm the best player in the game, throws the ball at the first base line. That doesn't really help you
And
too
flips
much.
off your center fielder when he tells you to get back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Eddie Van Slyke told him to move back, and he wouldn't do it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. But, yeah, my point is the pro football thing, you can only vote for 5 guys.
Yep.
All right, well, how do you pick out 5 guys?
It's tough.
Like that. You know, we've had
it's
Peter
tough.
King on before, and I've talked to Ira Miller and so forth. I remember Ira coming into the booth
Yeah, I
one
used
time.
to talk to him when he covered the games here.
May have been
Yeah.
at Wisconsin. And he came in and he said, "Hey, Jack, let me ask you something." He said, "You know, if you were sitting in our chair," he said, "would you vote for Ray Guy as a Pro Football Hall of Famer as a punter?" And Jack said, "Absolutely," because, you know, they're contemporaries.
Yeah.
He says, "Absolutely." You know, it's the way he changed field position, the kind of, you know, athlete he was. I mean, Jack was going through everything about him. And it was interesting because Ira was telling me that, now, Ray Guy did get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But they would, when they talk about it, when it came time for Guy's name to come up, Ira then told me later that there was one other name came up, and it was from Peter King, and Peter King was saying, well, if he's in, Gerald Wilson should be in. Now, people are like, we got enough people sitting here, like, listening to this podcast, like, who the heck is Gerald Wilson? And when the Chiefs got to the first Super Bowl and then won Super Bowl IV, he was their punter. His average per punt is actually better than Ray Guy's. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that. And that was the point Peter was making about it. But Ira wanted to ask because he had one of the votes. It's that difficult.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to get as much information as possible, and there aren't punters going into the Hall of Fame. So he wanted to get at least somebody who was on the opposing team that saw the guy play, punt, and the kind of influence he had on the game as to whether it was worthy of a vote. I mean, that's, and when you're only voting for 5, that's hard.
Absolutely.
That's hard.
Your job is a little bit, and not much easier, but a little bit easier now because of all the next-gen things that you have now. You're able to see, you go back and look, and you're able to see a lot more what this guy can do at certain positions. But, yeah, in terms of offensive line, I agree with you. I think it's more clear when they pull. I think that's, and when they're the only guy in the line. I think that's the other part of it. When he goes out and the line crumbles, suddenly you're looking at it and saying, okay, this guy's probably pretty good. Orlando Pace for the Rams, obviously, for many years was that way. Trent Williams is that way now. But, yeah, I think it's very difficult, especially at the guard position, to see what they're doing. Extremely difficult.
Right. I mean, maybe a left tackle sticks out.
Yeah, tackle does.
Right.
But it's,
especially a left tackle does. Here are the guys that are nominated this year, Pro Football Hall of Fame. Eric Allen. Philadelphia Eagles, Saints, and the Raiders.
Real good career in Philadelphia.
Jared Allen, pass rusher extraordinaire for the Vikings especially. Kansas City, Vikings, Bears, Carolina Panthers. Willie Anderson, the offensive tackle for the Bengals and the Ravens. Evans, the offensive lineman for the Saints for 11 years, and the Packers won. Dwight Freeney, Colts.
Yep.
Right?
Atlanta Falcon. Yeah.
All those years, Chargers, Cardinals, Falcons, Lions, Seahawks. The tight end, Antonio Gates. San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers. He never played a game for the Los Angeles Chargers.
No.
Okay?
Nope.
It was always San Diego. Rodney Harrison. Chargers, Patriots. Kick returner extraordinaire, Devin Hester.
Yeah.
Bears, Falcons, Ravens, Seahawks. Torrey Holt, are the greatest show on turf.
Yeah.
Rams, and then last year with the Jags. Andre Johnson, who was the gold standard wide receiver for many years for the Houston Texans. Julius Peppers. Okay, Carolina Panthers, then eventually at the end with the Bears and the Packers. Fred Taylor, running back, Jacksonville Jaguars, and then the last couple of years of the Patriots. Reggie Wayne, wide receiver with the Indianapolis Colts. Patrick Willis, San Francisco 49ers, had one good season.
One good season one good season in the 2012 year, and then not counting the other several years he had with Bowman.
I had to get a rise out of you. Darren Woodson, Dallas Cowboys. So which of those 5 guys do you vote for?
That's
Okay.
you can name 10 of those that are in the Hall of Fame.
I would say the 5 guys. I mean, you only have 5.
Peppers is one for sure.
So Julius Peppers is one. Patrick Willis to me is another one.
I would put him in, yeah.
Reggie Wayne would be another one.
He's close. I think he'd be one I'd kind of put to the side.
Yeah.
I think he's a Hall of Famer, but out of that list, I think there are a couple other guys I might put above him.
And Antonio Gates.
Yeah, Gates is one I would have put above him.
Gets a long look for me. And the last one, I'd be bouncing between 3 guys. Hester, Harrison, and Dwight Freeney.
I was going to say Freeney. Yep. That's yes. I think Peppers, I think Freeney, and Gates are the 3 that I would put in for sure. The other guys I'm going to put to the side. I think Willis is another guy. The other guys I'm going to put to the side. I think I would put Hester on the side because I think he's a Hall of Famer. But will he get in this time? I don't know. I think a guy I'm going to put on the side is Jared Allen. I think he changed the game in a lot of ways. And Rodney Harrison is another one.
With all due respect, how did he change the game?
It changed the game. It's the game in terms of that day.
Oh, a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't Lawrence Taylor.
No.
It's not Bobby Orr.
My goodness, no. Lawrence Taylor's the best defensive player I ever saw. I think that's probably. I think you're gonna put those offensive linemen at some point are gonna get in, but I don't think it's this year. I think that's about it right there. I think that's out of those guys I named. I think that's probably all I can do. And the worst part of it, I think Fred Taylor's a Hall of Famer. I think Andre Johnson probably belongs consideration. I think that
it just takes a while.
Exactly. I think it's
these are the semifinals.
You just wish you could. It's almost like the old scholarship where I wish you could pick everybody, but I got to pick 3, and that's exactly what it is.
These are the semifinalists that didn't get to the final group. Tiki Barber, Anquan Bolden, London Fletcher.
Bolden and Fletcher both, I think.
Fletcher,
Barber, no.
Good. Eddie George, James Harrison, Robert Mathis, Steve Smith Sr., Heinz Ward,
I'd say no to all
Ricky
them
Waters.
Waters is a Hall of Famer. Yeah, Ricky Waters' numbers are better than a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame. I think his attitude is one thing that has definitely hurt him in a big way. You know, Philadelphia fans can't stand him at this point. Yeah. He warmed them over the first day when he said for who, for what. But yeah, I would say his numbers. The other part of it also, people remember he won the Super Bowl in San Francisco and he left immediately. So I think that hurt his career from a national perspective. And then obviously in Philadelphia, he ticked off a lot of people.
Because he left the 49ers? People leave the 49ers.
Well, he left the 49ers when they were a Super Bowl contender consistently. I think he would have probably brought more notoriety to himself staying there.
Has so many hurt feelings.
But it took a while for them to replace him. Derek Lavelle wasn't exactly Ricky Waters.
You seem so hurt when people abandon you.
Well, the locker room was bonded a little closer when Ricky Waters left. But yeah, Waters, and I thought his numbers to me are Hall of Fame caliber. I think London Fletcher, same thing. But Waters' attitude is something that's going to keep him out.
Buddy Parker is the coach nominee, and he won 2 titles with the Detroit Lions in 52-53. And look, with the Steelers, who were not a good franchise, and he was above 500 1, 2, 3, 4 different times he was over 500, which back then was remarkable. But, he got the 2 titles with Detroit. He was not the head coach in the 57 team. And then among the senior, you have Art Powell, okay? Good end.
Yep.
Long time, good end. You're talking about a guy who had over 8,000 receiving yards and 81 touchdowns. A lot of that was with the Raiders. He also played with the Bills a little bit. Steve McMichael with the Bears. And the guy, to me, that's a lock is Randy Gradishar. I think Gradishar is a lock among the senior guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mongo, unfortunately, I think just played on that. You play with a defense that loaded, it's hard to get
but see,
consideration.
that's what that part to me is wrong.
It's wrong, but
Okay.
it's what they're looking at. There's no question they're looking at that. It's wrong. It's wrong that Mike Singletary got in after Richard Dent. Mike Singletary is better than Richard Dent. But the problem is, when you look at that defense as a whole, and Mike Singletary and Richard Dent were both better than Dan Hampton. So that to me, I think when you look at that defense, that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, well, he played on that defense. They were loaded. Well, his numbers have been the same, and he played here and here. You don't know because he didn't play there and there.
Look,
that's the problem.
For the voters we've had a lot of those guys in the show.
And that's why I kept Reggie Wayne out. Not me personally. I think they'll keep him out because of that. Played with Peyton Manning, played with Marvin Harrison, played with a good tight end with Clark. But the problem is, and that's exactly how these voters think. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them.
I've talked to enough of them. I think they look at everybody on an individual basis. I don't like, for example, Jerry Kramer wasn't in the Hall of Fame for a long period of time, and in fact. Remember, we had Jerry Kramer on the show the day before he found out.
Yep.
And the argument had been, well, there are too many Packers in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's an individual award.
And
it's not a team award.
Absolutely should be. That's why Patrick Willis is not in. That's why Roger Craig isn't. Roger Craig's a Hall of Famer.
Look, okay, Patrick Willis isn't in because of performance, okay?
Well, years he played.
Okay, he just...
Yeah.
All right. Like, how many tackles has he made lately?
After the age of 30. Didn't have any. Retired early. But if you're going to say to me, vote 149er that belongs in, it's not going to be Patrick Willis. It'll be Roger Craig.
Roger Craig should be.
Yeah. First 1,000 guy. And that's...
But was doing that every single year.
Consistent.
Now, he didn't do 1,000 every year, but he always was.
And I always hate when you say this guy's a Hall of Famer. Well, he fumbled in this game. Okay. That happens. Jerry Rice should have fumbled again in the playoffs against the Packers, the game they won. They didn't call it. The mistakes happen. So I think that
fumbled against the Giants in the playoff game.
Absolutely.
Right, where it looked like he was gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what? Jim Brown never fumbled?
Yeah, exactly. Barry Sanders, same thing. It's annoying for people to say that, to judge somebody by one play in their career or one thing they say. In the case of Ricky Waters, it should not be that way in any way.
What's keeping you out?
Quite a few things.
I mean, I put together a series of clips from this show.
Yeah. I couldn't
Let's
believe.
use that as a starting point.
And Marconi and Marconi even applauded us somehow, even though he's no longer been with us for years.
I knew Marconi. Marconi was a friend of mine.
But yeah,
does everybody know that you just like carry the water for every 49er player?
That's right. Well, it's not only the Niners. There's a lot of guys I would put in the Hall of Fame that aren't there right now that should be. Dwight Freeney being one.
You've got a list of people. They're almost all 49ers.
No, it's Dwight Freeney never played there. Devin Hester never played there. Reggie Wayne.
Yeah, but it's all 49ers. I mean, you're disgusted that the final ballot. I mean, you can only vote for the guys in the final ballot.
I thought Tom Rathman deserves some consideration. He played on that team.
You want Ricky Patton in. Like, what are you doing? Why? I mean, you want
Mark Logan.
Earl Cooper caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl against the Bengals. You want Earl Cooper
Jim Plunkett go in as a 49er, not as a...
Oh. Ever tell you the Jim Plunkett story?
No.
Okay, so they get to an all-star game. There's like the Hula Bowl or something. And I think John Ralston is the head coach. And Joe is an assistant coach. And the quarterbacks on their side are Jim Plunkett, Archie Manning, and Rex Kern of Ohio State. So Ralston goes up to Joe and he says, hey, look, I've got you working with the quarterbacks here. He says, why don't you tell Rex, maybe you should look at maybe helping us out in another spot. He goes, what? He says, yeah. He says, come on. He says, so Joe goes over to Rex Kern. He says, yeah, Rex, let me talk to you for a second. You see Plunkett? Plunkett's throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Ding, ding, ding. Plunkett had a phenomenal arm, right? And then there's Archie Manning, right? He says, Rex, have you thought about safety? And Kern's looking over at those two guys. He says, you're right. I think I'll give it a shot. And Kern made the NFL as a safety. He played in the NFL for 4 or 5 years with the Colts as a starting safety. But it was one of those you mentioned Jim Plunkett. Like Joe told me, he says, I never saw a guy with an arm like Plunkett's.
Really?
Yeah.
If you're just talking arm and not accuracy, Jeff George. I never saw somebody had an arm like Jeff George. He could throw. Well, Mahomes now, but Jeff George could throw a football
Jim
a long
Plunkett
way.
had on-field judgment.
Yeah, George didn't have that.
And
That's why he played for several teams.
Jeff George did not have on-field judgment.
No.
He didn't see the field very well.
No.
I mean, he's one of those guys that could bedazzle you in a combine workout. Because
Absolutely. That's why Colts moved up to get him.
It's like there's no rush, anything like that. You're picking out one guy. You're not picking out multiple guys. But yeah.
Yeah, he could throw a football. Brett Favre, same thing. Favre could throw the ball 75
Jim
yards.
Plunkett and Archie Manning.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Coach.
Yeah,
I see what you're talking about.
I think they're doing all right.
He says, I could try safety. Because Kern's like throwing the ball. It's like, okay, Rex, you're not going to play in this game. Unless you try something else. Well, it was another fun, adventurous show where once again you made up stuff about the 49ers and how great they are. America's rooting for Detroit.
Oh, there's no doubt on that one.
And,
you're not wrong there.
And have you ever wondered if you were one of the reasons why?
Yeah, probably part of it.
Oh, it's a huge part of it. That's all you do is carry the water up the 49er hill.
Well, I'll tell you, if that hill is the hill Jerry Rice used to run, that's a big hill.
I mean, you think Ken Willard and John David Crow should be in the Hall of Fame. Dave Parks should be in the Hall of Fame.
Guy McIntyre.
He led the league
Kevin
in rushing.
Fagan.
He led the league in receiving 1 year. You want him in. John Brody.
In that case, Barry Foster's in.
Right? Steve Spurrier.
Oh, Lord.
Best punter we ever had. Okay. This is you. This is you. Now it's coming back where like people are looking around going, geez. Oh, there goes that Jason Lord guy again. All right. Time to wrap it up.
All right.
This is where you close the show.
That's it.
Oh, thanks for joining us today on Seven Mountains Media.